somewhere back in time. We'll never know the year, the place, or the name. A human crouched beside a body that used to be someone they knew. They had seen death before. Animals died. The old and the sick died. But this time, something was different. This time, a thought arrived that had never existed in the history of life on Earth. This happens to everyone. And one day, it will happen to me. No animal had ever thought it. And the moment a human did, the human mind, as we know it, began. We treat death awareness as obvious. Of course we know we'll die. How could we not? But step back far enough, and it stops being obvious. It becomes strange. Because knowing you will die is not the same as seeing death. A gazelle sees a lion kill the animal beside it and feels terror, real, electric terror. But the moment the danger passes, the terror is gone. The gazelle grazes. It does not lie awake that night. It does not think, that will be me someday. That gap, between reacting to death and understanding it, is one of the widest gaps in the natural world. And somewhere in our history, a mind crossed it. To understand your own death, you need something almost no animal has. You need to be able to picture a future you cannot see. You need to imagine yourself, not existing, to run a simulation of the world with you removed from it. That is an extraordinary act of the mind. And it costs something. Because the moment you can imagine your own absence, you can also dread it. You buy foresight, and the price is fear. We can't interview the first human who understood death. But the dead leave signs. And the moment humans started treating their dead differently is the moment we can start to see this thought take physical shape. For most of history, a body was simply left where it fell. Then, at some point, that changed. Humans began to do something no animal does. They began to care for the dead. At a site called Cima de los Huesos in the mountains of northern Spain, the name means the pit of bones, researchers found the remains of at least 28 individuals, deep inside a cave system, at the bottom of a vertical shaft. These were not people who fell in by accident. The bodies appear to have been placed there, deliberately, over 400,000 years ago, by a human species that came before us. Think about what that requires. To carry your dead to a specific place. To decide that a body is not garbage to be abandoned, but something that still matters, even though it no longer moves. That decision only makes sense if death has become a question, if somewhere in that ancient mind, the thought had already formed. Where did they go? And where, one day, will I? They didn't have writing. They didn't have religion, not yet. But they had a body they refused to leave behind. And that refusal is the oldest evidence we have of a mind confronting its own end. Move forward in time, and the signs grow clearer. By around 100,000 years ago, our own species, and our Neanderthal cousins, were not just placing the dead, they were burying them. At Kafsa Cave, in what is now Israel, bodies were laid in graves with care. At other sites, the dead were positioned deliberately, curled as if sleeping, sometimes with tools, sometimes with pigment, sometimes with objects that served no purpose for the living at all. And here is the part that should stop you. You do not bury someone with the things they'll need, unless some part of you believes they still might need them. A grave is not just grief. A grave is a theory that death is not the total end, that the person has gone somewhere and might want their tools when they arrive. This is the human mind doing something no other creature has ever done, not just fearing death, arguing with it, building a story in which death is a door, not a wall. There's a companion to this story, where these first humans believed the dead actually went. That's its own video on the channel. But stay here, because we haven't answered the hardest question yet. Not what they did about death, but the moment they first understood it was coming. Set the graves aside for a moment. bones, and burials tell us what humans did. But this video is about something harder to dig up, the moment the thought first arrived. And for that, we have to look at how the thought forms even now. Watch a young child learn about death. For the first few years of life, they don't understand it. A pet dies, and they ask when it's coming back. Death, to a small child, is temporary, like sleep, like a trip. And then, usually somewhere around age 4 or 5, something clicks. They understand, suddenly, completely, that death is permanent, that it is universal, and that it applies to them. Psychologists call this the moment a child grasps the irreversibility and the inevitability of death. And for many children, it arrives like a small earthquake, the first sleepless night, the first real fear that has no monster in it. Now imagine that same realization, but for the very first time in the history of any mind. No parent to explain it, no word for it, no priest, no God, no comforting story that it isn't really the end. Just one human, standing over a body, as the full, cold weight of it settles. Because that's how a realization like this arrives. It doesn't come as a fact you're told. It comes as a weight, slowly settling, getting heavier the more you try to push it away. They didn't decide to understand it. No one does. It simply arrived. And once it arrived, it could never be unknown. Here's the strange twist. This knowledge, this terrible, unwanted knowledge, did not break us. It built us. Because a creature that knows it will die is a creature that can plan for a future it will not see. It can plant a tree it will never sit beneath. It can teach a child something that outlives them. It can build a shelter, a story, a monument, specifically because it knows its own time is running out. Almost everything we call human grows out of this one thought. Religion, an answer to death. Art, a way to leave something behind. Legacy, ambition, the desperate urge to matter, to be remembered. All of it is a response to the knowledge that we end. The philosopher's phrase for it is that humans are the animal that knows it will die. But sit with what that really means. Every cathedral, every grave with a name carved into it, every photograph you keep of someone gone, every time you've wondered whether your life meant something. All of it traces back to one ancient human, standing over one body, thinking one thought for the first time. Death didn't just frighten us, it organized us. It gave time a shape, a beginning, a middle, and an end we spend our whole lives trying to fill. The animal that grazes and forgets has peace. We traded that peace for something else. We traded it for meaning. But let's not pretend the trade was free. That first human paid a price we are all still paying. Because the knowledge never leaves. It sits underneath everything, quiet most of the time, but always there. It's in the fear that grips you at 3 a.m. for no reason. It's in the way we fill our days with noise so we don't have to sit with the silence. It's in the anxiety psychologists trace, in part to a single, unbearable fact we spend enormous energy not thinking about. We built entire systems to manage it. Religions that promise the door isn't a wall after all. Philosophies that tell us how to face it. Distractions. Endless distractions. So we never have to look at it directly. Some researchers argue that this quiet, background dread shapes more of human behavior than we'd ever admit. That much of what we do, the achieving, the buying, the building, the belonging, is, underneath it all, a way of holding the fear at arm's length. The first human who understood death handed us a gift and a wound in the same moment, and we've been carrying both ever since. So, when did humans first realize they were going to die? The honest answer is that we can't put a date on it. It didn't happen in a single year, or to a single person we could name. It happened slowly, across hundreds of thousands of years, in a mind, or many minds, learning to picture a future they would not be part of. But somewhere in there was a first time, a first human who looked at a body and understood, completely, that it would one day be them. No word for it, no God to ask, no comfort, just the weight, settling. And here's the thing we tend to forget. That moment was not the end of something. It was the beginning of everything that makes us us, because the awareness of death is the awareness of time, and the awareness of time is what makes a life feel like it's worth something. Every monument, every prayer, every name carved in stone so it won't be forgotten. It all begins with one decision. Not a decision to act, a decision to look, to not turn away from the one fact every other animal gets to ignore. Because the human mind didn't begin when we made our first tool or lit our first fire. It began the moment one of us understood we would die and decided to live anyway. If this channel is where you want to think about both, where we came from and what we've always carried, subscribe. New story every week. We'll see you there.